And then it is saved on the channel directly.
Okay.
I think it's working now. Yeah, and just be sure that I'm on mute on the YouTube so we don't disturb. And then it is saved. Okay, now it's good to go. So let me share my Medium's book with you all. Good morning to those that just arrived in the room. And today, Saturday, 11th of February, 2023, we starting from the item 120, Vespasian. Remind you all that this is a study. I strongly encourage you all to make questions, to make comments. You can raise your hand or you just open your mic and you can talk with us, right? That's the beauty of a study. Tacitus reports a similar case. During the months of Vespasian spent in Alexandria, while awaiting the periodic return of the summer winds and the season in which the sea was safest, many wonders occurred that were regarded as heaven displaying its protection and the interest of the gods in the prince. These wonders increased Vespasian's desire to visit the sacred dwelling place of the gods in order to consult them regarding the empire. He ordered the temple to be closed to everyone else. He then entered it and was completely attentive to what the oracle was about to proclaim. When he saw, standing behind the oracle, a highly important Egyptian named Basilides, whom he knew to be ill in a place several days away from Alexandria. Vespasian later asked the priest if Basilides had come to the temple that day. He asked various pedestrians if they had seen him in the city, and he finally sent horsemen who returned to assure him that Basilides had in fact been 8 miles away at the time. Consequently, he no longer had any doubts that the vision was supernatural, and he named Basilides became an oracle to him. Tacitus Histories, BK 4, chapter 81-82, translated by Bernolf. The person who appears simultaneously in two different places, therefore, has two bodies, only one of which is real, while the other is merely an appearance. Let's see what else Kardec brought for us. One could say that the former has organic life and the latter has anemic life. What is that? Organic life, I think we all understand what it is. Anemic life, what could be anemic life? Anyone has any idea what that could be? Total silence, so I guess no.
An energy,
Sorry, go on.
It's a similar energy to your spirit, but with energy from the material plane rather than the spiritual plane, but linked to your body. So it has an anemic, like from the material body, but it's expressing itself in an alternative dimension at the same time with lesser mass.
I would say,
yeah, go on, sorry.
I would say anemic life is life coming from within. So I think it's related to perispiritual life. And organic life is more life coming from the body, the physical body.
Yes, I think you are right, Ebony. In French, it says the first one is from the organic life, the life of the body, and the second one has the life of the soul. So the translator, by translating anemic life, is maybe making the things a little bit more complicated.
Mhm.
Life of the soul means spiritual life. Huh?
Yeah. This word in particular, anemic, creates havoc among the spiritists. First of all, the great majority of us, we are afraid about anemic because we truly do not understand what anemic is. The French translation, no, the original in French, by the way, when makes the relation for the life of the soul, is perfect. Because anemic, anything anemic comes directly from our soul. So in the future, if you hear, well, this medium is more anemic than anything else, sometimes you will see that word even in a pejorative way because it is misinterpreted. Anemic is positive. Anemic comes from our soul. And even in a mediumship meeting, if the medium really is only having anemic communications, something that a lot of people jump too quickly to judge, and without having the true facts to analyze if it is or not. But let's say if it is, it's positive. Because if we are having an anemic communication, we are then treating the spirit of the medium. We are helping the medium himself. So anemic is positive. If we are faking it, is another thing. You're not going to be talking about that here right now. But anemic is positive. And when he talks here about anemic life, it's the life of the soul. Also embraces the characteristics of the perispirit, where it will gather matter to be able to be seen. And we saw already in our previous studies how it is happening, right? So I would say that the two comments we had, one complete another. One with words that we are not very familiar with in the Spiritism, but the sense going in the right direction as well. And the other one that is also correct in my opinion, okay? So, but how is that possible, right? I have a physical being in a place and I have his double, if you like, someone else kilometers away from the origin. To better understand that phenomena, we need to study fluids, we need to study perispirit. And after we start to gather more information about it, things start to make more sense. In reality, when you are having an apparition, the apparition can be touched, you can feel the apparition. I'll leave that homework for you all right? Let's thinking about a materialization that we already study here. How that happened. It's a very similar phenomena with an apparition of the double elsewhere, a bilocation, if you like. So I'll leave that to you guys so you can search, you can do your homework, and then perhaps next week we can talk a bit more about that. All right? When the person's awake, hi, Christine.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question. You mentioned about, I think you mentioned the word politics, but different spirituous think differently. They don't always agree. So do they not all look at Kardec as being one of the forefathers of Spiritism?
Yes, they do. But human beings have different interpretations of the same text sometimes. You can read an article and you interpret that article the way that works for you. And perhaps the person next door will read exactly the same article and will take a different interpretation. And then you drive your actions, what you teach, according to what you understood. And one thing that's really complicated is that if you close yourself in your own understanding, so that means I'm right, anyone else is wrong. And the most complicated yet is that you start to teach what you believe is right. So that's why I love a study like that, where we have an opportunity to see different perceptions, different understanding, having a conversation about a topic, and then eventually we all will grow. But this is happening not only on the Spiritist world, it happens everywhere where we have human beings. It's down to people's interpretation. And one thing that I want to tell you now, Christine, what we are understanding here today, I hope that in 2 years' time, we will understand a bit different. I hope that in 5 years' time, we'll understand things we are not able to understand today. And in 10 years' time, perhaps we can even look at what we thought we were right. I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong. The great problem when people analyze things related to personal creeds or religions or philosophies is when they are stuck in that moment and they are not allowing themselves to learn anything else. Let's think about Jesus when he brought to us the parables. Even today, we cannot be 100% sure we fully understood what he mentioned to us. We have tons of interpretations. But there was a parable. And if you go to a lecture, every lecture presents the very same parable with a different paint, with a different tone. So that means that there's not only one version, not only one understanding of that parable. And we're talking about 2,000 years, a bit more, by the way. And we're still having the same. So we know nothing. We only know a little that is a consequence of our exposures and what we study today. If my exposure in 2 years' time, 5 years' time will be different, thanks to God, I'm learning something else. I'm evolving. And that's the beauty of study. And that's the beauty that Kardec brought to us. Because he said, if something in the future comes to show that we are incomplete or wrong, stick to it. So he had that vision already at that time. Right? So going back to your initial question, yes, it does create politics, it does create disagreement, it does create different point of view about the same subject. That's why I always strongly reinforce that we all must study by ourselves. Having a study group like we're having here is brilliant, but we need to study ourselves too, because perhaps that guy that's talking in that study, he's saying something according to his perception, to his knowledge. It doesn't mean that is 100% correct. And you studying by yourself, you will create an environment for you that will allow you to analyze better what anyone is saying against something that is reliable. Did I help with what I said?
Yes.
Good. When the person awakens, the two bodies reunite and the anemic life re-enters the physical body. Mm. Mm.
Again, the same. Hein? La vie de l'âme
Yeah.
rentre dans le corps matériel. Hein?
Well, yes, I think I'm prepared to accept the first anemic as okay. The second one here really creates a problem of interpretation. Because your soul is only one. You do not split your soul, period. It does not exist. So that's why it's always important, if you have an opportunity to go to the source, to eliminate misunderstandings. Our perispirit has some characteristics. To understand how that is possible, to have a bilocation, we have to study the perispirit. That's paramount to understand this phenomena. By the way, any mediumistic phenomena, but this one in particular, right? And our perispirit can expand, can retract, is flexible. There are a few characteristics that I'm pretty sure that when the time is coming, you guys will study about it. It does not seem possible, at least we have no examples, but reason seems to demonstrate that when separated, the two bodies cannot simultaneously enjoy the same degree of active and intelligent life. What do you guys think? Do you think that when we have a bilocation, we can have a conversation in point A and point B?
Only very high evolved spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I would not eliminate that possibility, but it's unlikely that we will see something like that, right? The reason is it's better to understand. I'll make like something here to try to help an understanding here, right? We know that when we sleep, our perispirit can walk about, can go to different distances, can visit people we like, people we hate. We can go to different places. We can go to a very far distances when we are sleeping. This phenomena is kind of the same. The medium will jump into a status of catharsis. I forgot the word, but it's like the spirit, the medium will start and will be on a screensaver mode. All right. The spirit will be quiet. His organic characteristics will go to a very low level, possibly sleeping, right? And then his perispirit go to point B, and in this point B can be seen, can absorb matter, and then we have the phenomena. All right? Moreover, concerning what we have just stated, we would emphasize that the real body cannot die while the apparent body remains visible. The approach of death would always call the spirit back to the body, even if for only a moment. This also means that the apparent body could not be killed, since it is neither organic nor composed of flesh and bone. It would vanish in seconds that anyone wanted to kill it. I have a hand. Hi, Liz. Liz, I think you're mute.
Sorry, hi everyone. On earlier studies, about 20 odd years ago, when I was part of different circles and things, we were always warned that, you know, the medium had to be protected whenever in trance or anything like that. And especially when we were going out of our body for any reason, you know, if we induced that, because if there was a shock, the spirit could be snapped back into the body very fast, which can cause a lot of damage or even death to the medium. If it was snapped back, you know, in a shock or an unexpected something, or somebody touched the medium. Is this true? Because it doesn't, it says it's not true in the book here.
Regardless what is written in the book, I always like to refrain to the practice. The practice shows us that does not work like that. The practice shows us that we don't need to have guardians around the medium to protect the medium or anything like that. I will make a, I'll bring here an example, something that's very common. Who in this room were sleeping, having a dream, and then return and wake up so fast with a shock that you get scared and you wake up? I think this is very common. Or I am the only one who have this kind of feeling. I don't believe so.
I get the feeling where I'm falling and I suddenly, you know, jump in my sleep sometimes. I think that's quite common.
Yeah, and what is it?
I think that's when you're actually re-entering the body.
Now, this is why, this is when something unexpected happened.
Yeah.
When you are in your walk, when you are away from your body, when something unexpected happened and you come so quickly to your body. This is the feeling you have when that happened. And I don't think you're dead yet. You are here talking to me as incarnated. So it proves that when something like that happens, when your perispirit is detached from your physical body, you will not die. You will return to your physical body.
It seems too risky for that kind of thing to happen, as if it wasn't built in that you've got that safety net. That's what I always thought too, because it happens, you know, can often happen. So it's a big risk if that was the case, that, you know, it was dangerous.
The thing is, Liz, how much we study before we start to believe in things, how much we experience the practice side of things before we start to create theories. This is very important. Not well elaborate theory can lead a lot of people to create things that the practice shows something totally different. So we need
It's
to be
nice to
careful.
have that clarified. Thank you.
We have to, as always, study. We have to refrain to the practice. We have to analyze things thoroughly. Because there's a lot of things I heard over the years that is totally nonsense, based in what we saw, based in what we experienced. Not talking about reading a book, making up my interpretation. I'm talking about facts, living the situations over and over and over. That makes a lot of difference. I think Rafaela raised her hand, but I'm not sure. Rafaela?
Yes. I just wanted to add something which I don't know if it's correct, but just from one time I've studied that the whole kind of person is divided into four: spiritual body, a body, the perispirit, and the duplo ethérico, I'm not sure in English, what's called, but duplo etérico,
Yep.
and the soul itself. And that kind of soul itself is something that stays there, like it doesn't change a lot regardless. And that's what kind of molds what you're going to look like when you, alongside your perispirit. It's like an absorbing membrane of energies, like a filter that comes in, comes out, comes in, comes out. And the spirits, when they are disincarnate and they sleep and they dream, that's what they use to go to other dimensions. So I've also heard this, but I don't know if it's true, that a reincarnate can use that fourth part of the body, spiritual body, to, if depending on the mental vibration, could be during mediumism or during meditation states, and appears somewhere else with some conscience or not. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it's the dislocation of that fourth force link to your soul kind of thing. But I don't know if it's true, sorry.
I would refrain to the study of the perispirit as a first source of information for that. Okay. There are different layers of our energetic being. This is recognized by Kardec. So to fully understand and appreciate what you said, we have to study all the layers. When you go to a place to another, there are situations where you take part of your double with you, because double is energy, right? And that's when we do have detachment, and the spirit goes in a different place to help other spirits. It does take with him part of the double, because that dense energy is required to help the spirits in a different location. But that's another subject, right? So I would encourage people to study, again, perispirit. And then after, yeah, why not read about the other layers of our beings? But it can be messy, especially because we have the tendency to try to read everything from every direction, and then we make a nice pot with a lot of information that does not make sense after all. So if we're talking about spiritism, I would start studying the perispirit and trying to find those informations within the spiritism, because then someone already filtered something that does make sense and does not make sense according to the spiritism. Because if you go to India, for example, there's a lot of data information about the spiritual bodies, not always in the same directions that we believe or we study. So, but it's an interesting subject. I lost where I finished. Intelligence life, enjoy the same life. Okay, I'll read that again just in case. It does not seem possible, at least. I know I finished that item. Yep. So I'll move to the next one. Transfiguration. This one is very interesting. Very interesting. We shall not consider the second phenomenon, transfiguration, which entails a modification of the appearance of the living body. Regarding it, here's a case that occurred between 1858, 1859, in the outskirts of Saint-Étienne, and whose perfect authenticity we can guarantee. A young lady of about 15 possessed the strange faculty of being able to transfigure herself, in that at any given moment she could take on the appearances of certain deceased individuals. This illusion was so complete as to lead one to believe that one was actually in the person's presence due to the similarity of the facial traits, expressions, voice, tone, and even the specific speech patterns. Do you believe that? This phenomenon repeated itself hundreds of times without any interference from the girl's will. She often took on the appearance of her brother, who had died a few years earlier, reproducing not only his facial features, but also his girth and height. I don't know what girth means, but anyway, his height. A local doctor who was often present during these strange occurrences wanted to assure himself that he was not the victim of illusion. So he performed the following experiment. We gathered the information from the doctor himself, the girl's father, and many other trustworthy and honorable eyewitnesses. The doctor decided to wait the girl in her normal state, and then, during the transfiguration in which she took on the appearance of her brother, who had died at age 20 and who had been much larger and stronger than she. The doctor subsequently verified that during the transfiguration, the girl's weight nearly doubled. The experiment was conclusive since it was impossible to attribute the appearance of a simple optical illusion. We will try to explain this type of occurrence, which has always been regarded as a miracle, but which we simply label as a phenomenon. What do you guys think about that? Is that possible? We don't know.
Well,
I think
I was just about to say, sorry. Kardec would have us believe that that's possible because he's so keen for us to believe it because of the previous paragraphs where he said this is absolutely true and honorable witnesses and trustworthy, and that they had someone there who could verify by way of material being that this person in fact had taken on a different state, had a different appearance, and that could only have been through spiritual means.
I'll tell you something, Christine. It's way more common to see in the mediumship meeting. The medium changed entirely his voice, something that he described here in the meeting. It is the same it's part of the same phenomena. And this is very common. We can see them more often than the full transfiguration in a meeting. It's funny.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go, Daniel.
Can I make a question? Could we try to make a parallel? I'm just trying to think here, the body change in terms of weight. If you are in the sun for a long period of time, you're gonna reduce the humidity and you're gonna sweat and it's gonna evaporate and you're gonna lose weight. So this is a normal process. A version of that will be accelerated in an inverse situation could be some kind of explanation for that. In the same way that water is the fluid in this example, but the fluids that that person is acquiring is making the body weight get bigger or something like that. To be honest, I'm getting these from mechanisms of mediunity from Chico Xavier, and it says that waves behave like mass, and sometimes mass behaves like waves. So it is basically like light can provide weight and back and forth. That makes sense, or it's a reasonable comparison.
Mhm. Somehow, the medium absorb a mass that is directly linked to a fluid, as you said, from another spirit, right? So yeah, it does make sense what you said. I would dig a little bit more because it's not a straightforward phenomena, right? But yes, this is in line with your question. Your question was more like not a question, was more like a response than anything else. But yes. Mhm. Liz, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did. I would say about 2006, the International Academy of Conscientiology, where I studied all their courses, the IAC, our medium there, the lecturer, was Wagner Allegretti and his wife Nancy. And they conducted experiments for us, for the students. And Wagner went into trance and allowed about 10 different spirits to actually change his physiognomy, his face shape, and we actually observed all these different spirits, one after the other, changing his face to their face. And we also performed another experiment where spirits who were not able, wanted to actually perceive and use our own eyes. So they used our eyes to see as we would see as well. So that was very interesting.
Mhm. I will mention here some. Go, Ebony, you first.
Yes, I wanted to share an experience that I had. We know from the literature that low evolved spirits are able to transfigure themselves into the appearance of animals for whatever reason they do it. I had the personal experience of knowing a medium in Zimbabwe. And he was visited by people all over the world who was just awed by that phenomena. And apparently he was able to transfigure himself into the rare white lions of South Africa. And of course, in the ignorance, they assumed that to be almost miraculous. And like I said, people from all over the world were traveling to Zimbabwe to see him do this. So I think, I don't know how, how popular this phenomena is in terms of mediums being able to do it, but I know of this specific case in Zimbabwe.
I spent a good part of my life in Africa. And in Africa, there's a lot of people that believe that human beings can change its shape and form into animals. Is that possible? Thinking about only the techniques, when a transfiguration to another spirit is possible, I would say that a transfiguration to an animal form is also possible. But I do not know any information about it. I'm just evaluating in principle the possibility. I would say the possibility could exist. And believe or not, and when the same comments happen in different countries, different continents, must be something behind that. But I do not know myself enough to elaborate about the subject. The only thing that I can make a comment of is that if I analyze a phenomena per se, if I can change my face into your face, for example, I can change my face into an animal. But I'll stop there because, as I said, I have no information about that. but I can guarantee you guys have a lot of strange things came to my ears when I was almost 25 years back and forth in Africa, and even in my home country. There are things that are really, really different, but I do not possess information to elaborate about it. But well, I really appreciate that your comment, Ebony, because this is something that makes us think, right? And I will mention here a couple examples in regards to transfiguration. I knew a medium that she used to work with her guide, her benefactor. Her benefactor was a German, tall, blue eyes, pale skin. And sometimes when she was giving the communication from him, her black eyes, black brownish eyes would turn into blue. Her face, her skin turn a bit into a pale skin, right? The voice would change entirely. She had something like what? 155, 160 height, and she became taller. So it is something I can say. There's another event where someone I know was sleeping with his wife, and his wife woke up terrified because was a different man in the bed. She panicked. A couple of minutes later, the husband regained his form. Right, so we're not talking about strangers, or no, we're talking about a couple in the bedroom, and when for some reason she woke up and saw the person beside her was not the person. Right. There's another event from people I know as well in a mediumship meeting where during the conversation with the spirits, the indoctrinator, he changed his appearance, his voice, his appearance. And when the indoctrination was over, the people in the meeting that were watching was a bit, what's that? People were a bit scared of that situation. So it is more common than we think. Do we want to see? Perhaps we saw and we never noticed. Depending on the situation, depending on the environment we don't even know. If I don't know the person, I don't know if it's different or not. If I don't know this place, I don't know if that can happen or not. But this is something that I can say is real. I can say is real. If you want to believe or not, is up to you guys. But I am in the same page as Kardec. This is real. In certain cases, transfigurations can occur. Oh, I remember one thing, Ebony. I was in Nigeria, and there was something very popular in the newspapers because they were chasing someone that had stolen something into an alley. And in that alley, they could not escape. There was no means to a human being to escape from the alley. Charles, how to say chèvre in English? Goat, yes, goat. But in the alley, the two officers chasing that person found a goat. They took the goat to the prison. They put the goat in jail because they believe that that person were able to change his format into a goat, and they were expecting the goat to turn back into the human. And I'm talking about 2018. I'm not talking about 100 years ago. I'm talking about something very recent. And I was in the country when that happened. I saw myself in the newspapers and things like that. So where does belief coming from? I don't know.
Actually, we have this phenomena on my island. It's very, very common. And it was even more common back in olden days. And it's referred to when people are able to transform themselves into any animal, and they're caught. It's referred to as Loup-garou.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is common.
Mhm. Hi, Liz.
Interesting phenomenon is for those people that can induce themselves to go out of the body at will. It's good to know that should you be imprisoned for any reason or political reasons, you know, you can still maintain an element of freedom because you can actually get out of the cell. Even though your body is there, you can actually have that freedom by being able to induce an out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something that came to my mind here is that lots of mediums were burned in stake not too long ago, right? So things that people do not understand, things that people could not conceive at the time, and yet today could be enough to create a lot of trouble. So what time is it? It's time. In certain cases, transfigurations can occur as the result of a simple muscular contraction that can cause a very different facial expression to such a degree that the person becomes unrecognizable. We have often observed this in a few somnambulists. However, in this case, transformation is not radical. A woman may appear to be young or old, beautiful or homely, but she will always be the same woman, and her weight will neither increase or decrease. However, in the case of the young lady, there was obviously something more involved. The theory of the perispirit will send us in the right direction. So if you guys want to understand those possibilities, even Kardec is telling us to study the perispirit. We accept in principle that the spirits can give its perispirit any appearance it chooses. And by modifying its molecular arrangement, it can render it visible and tangible, and consequently opaque. That while separated from the body, the perispirit of a living individual can undergo the same transformations, and that this change of state occurs through a combining of fluids. Do you guys remember the homework I was telling you guys to do? No, what a shame. You forgot already. But the answer is here. The answer is here, right? Can render visible and tangible. Tangible. This is the word. Let us imagine the perispirit of a living person, not separated from the body, but instead radiating all around the body in such a way as to envelop it like a kind of vapor. Let me stop here. Something came to my mind. I know we have some mediums in the room, and you can tell if I'm lying or not, if you had the experience or not. But sometimes when you are in trance, you feel like your body is expanding. You're becoming taller. You're becoming stronger. you will not change your physical appearances, but the medium will have that feeling so clear that they feel like, oh, something strange going on. Sometimes the communication comes, the spirits come and go, and you don't feel anything. But sometimes it may happen to the point that the medium feel like, ooh, I'm changing. Not physically, but the perispirit is assuming a different form. Is your perispirit, is the perispirit of the spirit? The way the communication happens is one perispirit touching another, right? So I don't know why it came to my mind to say that. In this state, it can undergo the same modifications as when it is awake. If it loses its transparency, the body can seem to disappear, to become invisible and veiled, as if it had been immersed in some kind of fog. It can even change its appearance and become luminous, depending on the will or power of the spirit. If another spirit were to combine its own fluids with those of the former, it could substitute itself for the person's appearance in such a way that his or her real body disappears, covered by an exterior fluidic envelope, whose appearance can vary as the spirit's will. This appears to be the true cause of this strange phenomena, and we trust to state that transfiguration is quite rare. The difference in weight can be explained in the same way as the change in inert objects. That is, the intrinsic weight of the body itself does not vary, since the amount of its matter does not increase. Instead, the body is influenced by an outside agent that can increase or decrease its relative weight, as explained in number 78 above. Therefore, the transfiguration into the form of a child would probably decrease the weight proportionally. Because he was giving an example that that girl, when she was transformed into her brother, deceased brother, he got taller, he got stronger, he got heavier. But the opposite could also be true. Could be someone 1.8, but when the transformation comes, becomes someone 1.5 meters, for example, right? Invisibility. So before I move to the invisibility, what do you guys think about it? Do you think it's some storyteller telling something, or do you think that could be something possible? Hi, Liz.
Ability and you know, the opaqueness. I was just wondering whether it's exactly the same method they use now for cloaking devices or to make aircraft invisible, like stealth aircraft. Is it the kind of thing to make the haze, the you know, the foggy thing? Are we doing the same with the body? And did they get the idea from that?
I have no idea, Liz. I don't even know if it's possible to hide an aircraft.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. I don't know. So maybe, well, as we are talking about natural things here, natural things can be observed by anyone in any time. So perhaps someone observed this phenomena and decide to use for a different purpose. Is it possible? I don't know. I truly don't know. I read about a few things disappearing, appearing in different places, large equipment appearing and disappearing, but is it true? I don't know. Makes sense.
That's manipulation of time, like the Philadelphia experiment with the large boat, the liner. They manipulate time.
Was that true? I don't know. I wasn't there. I was not an eyewitness, and I never had access to true reports. So what in that example, as you said, the ship. I read in a book. Is that true? I don't know. Makes sense? I don't know. Is it possible? Maybe. It's beyond my comprehension and knowledge. But a lot of things that are possible today, 200 years ago, we would be killed. We would be fucked. We would be burned in the stake. If we travel in time for 200 years ago with a mobile phone and try to show pictures in a mobile phone to our ancestors, they will not like it. So I don't know. I don't know. That's my honest answer. And let me just see 3 messages here. Oh, that blah blah blah. Okay. All right. So I'll stop share. I'll stop. How can I stop that? It is our time, and I'd like to thank you all for your patience to be here. And I'm looking forward to be with you all again in a week time. And Ebony, can you do our final prayer?
Sure. Merciful Jesus, as we reflect on the lessons that we've learned here, we just want to thank all of our benefactors. We want to thank you for the opportunity to gather each week, to study, to grow in knowledge. And we ask, dear Lord, that the benefit of this prayer be extended to everyone who was not able to make it, to every home that is present here, to our friends, to our colleagues. Together we pray. Amen.
Thank you all. Looking forward to see you again in a week time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 you. Bye bye.
Thank you.